Right, everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to dive into something that I think affects pretty much all of us. Um,
Yeah,
especially, in this day and age,
right.
e-money and financial institutions,
Yeah.
those compliance frameworks.
It's everywhere now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, we're using digital transactions all the time. And, what is it that's actually,
Keeping it safe.
yeah, keeping it safe, keeping our money safe, keeping our data safe?
It's all happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's these frameworks.
Yeah.
So, we're pulling from the new Compliance Officer Playbook. They had this really interesting episode. They called it Key Compliance Frameworks, an overview.
I think I listened to that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a great one. Really good overview.
It's a dense topic.
It is. It is.
There's a lot to it.
But we're gonna try and break it down. Make
I'll
it.
unpack it a bit.
Yeah, exactly. User friendly.
Right, right.
And I think it's this is stuff that's changing all the time.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and get into some of that too.
I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Like, we're trying to build a rule book
Right.
for a game that's constantly changing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot
It is.
to keep up with.
Okay, so first of all, like what are these frameworks? Like how would you just define that, like in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, I would say it's kind of like a structured set of guidelines. They kind of give you a roadmap. They help financial institutions navigate all those legal and regulatory obligations, manage risks, do it ethically.
Like a rule book.
Exactly. Yeah, like a rule book
For the financial world.
fair and safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And why are those so important, especially, when we're talking about e-money?
Well, think about it. With e-money, it's all digital.
It's all happening online.
Yeah, it's global.
Yeah.
So you've got to have these frameworks in place to protect against things like financial crime, right? We need to ensure those transactions are secure. And we can't forget about customer data. That's gold.
Yeah, that's so important. It needs to be safeguarded.
Like, I was thinking about this like the other day. I was, just using Apple Pay or something just on my phone, right? Just to buy, a coffee or whatever.
Happens all the time.
And I don't even think about it, right? Like, I don't think about what's happening behind the scenes to
to make sure
that that's secure, make sure that,
my money's not disappearing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nobody's stealing my information, my money, like
Right.
all of that.
But it's all thanks to those frameworks.
Yeah. It's really it's amazing when you think about it. It's pretty incredible. But there's also a lot of challenges specific to e-money, right? Because it is so new, it is so fast moving.
Absolutely, it's like the Wild West out there.
And one of the biggest challenges is just keeping up with the innovation, right? The technology is constantly evolving. New payment methods are popping up all the time. And then you layer on top of that cross-border transactions. Things are moving across borders so fast.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, really.
Yeah. And then there's the whole risk of fraud and cybersecurity breaches, right? Like,
Oh yeah, that's huge.
that's
Enormous. I mean,
Yeah.
every time I read about another data breach, I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
We got to do better.
All right, so let's dive into some of these specific frameworks now. You mentioned AML, anti-money laundering,
Yeah.
and then CTF, which is
Counter-terrorist financing.
yeah. So what's the big picture there? Like, what are those all about?
Okay, so AML, CTF, they both have the same goal, right? It's to prevent criminals from using the financial system to launder money, to finance terrorism, any kind of illicit activities.
Right.
They want to stop that. And they do that through a number of ways.
Mhm.
You mentioned KYC before.
Okay.
Know your customer. It's essential. You have to verify customer identities, right? Make sure they are who they say they are.
But I mean, isn't that kind of intrusive? Like, I get it, but like, how much information do they really need?
I know. It can feel like that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You're handing over all this personal information.
Yeah.
But think about it from the other side. Imagine you're a bank
Okay.
and someone comes in trying to open an account with a fake ID.
Okay.
They're trying to launder money from some illegal operation. KYC is that first line of defense. It's like a bouncer checking IDs at the door, right?
Yeah.
It makes it a lot harder for those criminals to just waltz in and use the system for their own purposes.
All right. I see your point.
Yeah, so KYC is important.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing. We also have transaction monitoring.
Okay. So what's that then?
So this is where things get really high tech, They're using algorithms and data analysis to scam for suspicious activities in real time. Think of it like a security camera. but for money.
Oh, okay.
It's constantly watching the flow of money, looking for anything unusual.
So, like, I'm thinking, like, if there was, like, a huge transaction all of a sudden, like, that would be a red flag.
Absolutely.
Or, like, unusual patterns, like maybe a lot of small transactions all of a sudden.
Yes, exactly. Patterns that just don't make sense. And if something looks fishy, they'll file a suspicious activity report,
Right.
a SAR,
Mm-hmm.
to the authorities. And then, law enforcement can step in, follow the money trail. It's all about connecting the dots.
Oh, okay. So, like, all these things are working together. KYC, the transaction monitoring, the SARs, it's all part of that same...
Big AML, CTF puzzle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a global effort.
Right.
And there's some really important frameworks out there, like the FATF recommendations. You probably heard of FATF.
Yeah.
The Financial Action Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
They set the standards globally for combating money laundering and terrorist financing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the EU AML directives, which are really comprehensive. They provide this really solid foundation for preventing financial crime. It's really important that we have this global cooperation.
Yeah.
Because criminals, they don't respect borders.
No, they don't.
So we have to work together to stop them.
All right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about AML and CTF. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about PSD2.
Right.
So Payment Services Directive 2. So what's the deal with that?
Oh, PSD2.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
That one's really interesting. It's all about promoting innovation and competition in the financial services market, especially in Europe.
Yeah.
It's about making things more consumer friendly, giving people more control over their finances,
Okay, yeah, that sounds
more secure.
good. I
Yeah.
like that. One of the biggest things that PSD2 introduced was strong customer authentication, SCA.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you ever bought something online and you have to use your fingerprint or enter a one-time code?
Yes. Oh, all the time.
That's PSD2. It's
Yeah.
an extra layer of security to make sure that it's really you making that transaction.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit annoying. I have to find my phone, get the code and all of that.
It can be.
But I get it. I get it.
But it's for your own protection.
Yeah.
I mean, it's making those transactions more secure. And then, there's open banking, which is also a big part of PSD2.
Okay, so tell me about open banking.
All right, so open banking, that's all about data sharing. It requires banks to share your financial data with third-party providers, if you give them permission.
Okay.
So, you have all these cool budgeting apps and financial management tools.
Oh, yeah. I use a bunch of those.
Yeah, they can connect to your bank account, analyze your spending, give you personalized insights. It's all about putting you in control of your finances.
Oh, okay. So that's how all of that works. Because I always wondered about that, like how all that data gets shared and how all these apps are able to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool.
What's thanks to PSD2.
Okay, very cool.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. So PSD2 sounds like it's very much about, empowering consumers, giving them more control, more security. But then there's also the whole data privacy issue, right? So,
Yeah.
we can't talk about this without talking about GDPR,
GDPR, yes.
General Data Protection Regulation.
That's a game changer.
It is.
Yeah.
So, it's about protecting personal data, right? But what does that actually mean for e-money and for financial institutions?
Well, it means they have to be a lot more careful about how they collect and use your data.
Okay.
They can't just collect it just in case, right? Like
Yeah.
they used to.
Yeah.
They need to have a lawful basis for collecting any data. And they can't just keep it forever. You have rights, You have
Yeah.
the right to access your data, to rectify it if it's wrong, even to erase it if you want to.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
So it's really shifting the balance of power
Yeah.
back to the individual.
Yeah. And this is a European regulation, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like it's having an impact.
Globally.
Yeah, globally.
Absolutely. Even
It's raised the bar for
Yeah.
data protection everywhere. Companies are realizing they need to take data privacy seriously no matter where they're operating.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so we've talked about AML, CTF, PSD2, GDPR.
The big ones.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably even more, but these seem like the key frameworks that are kind of shaping this whole e-money landscape.
Absolutely foundational.
Yeah. So any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I would just say this, all these frameworks, they might seem complicated.
They are dense.
Yeah.
But they're really there to protect you. They're there to make sure that the digital financial system is safe, it's secure, it's trustworthy. So stay informed, ask questions, Know your rights, and don't be afraid to demand that your data be protected. Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's a great place to leave it. So much good stuff to think about.
It is.
And this is a landscape that's constantly evolving, so
Definitely.
we're gonna have to check back in on this.
Oh, we'll be back
Yeah, we'll be back.
for more.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This has been fun.
It has. I always learn something new.
Yeah, me too.
Mm.
All right, until next time.
See ya.